Hello youth, I hope you guys are doing well. This is your midweek encouragement video. We're going to jump right in, and then I've got a couple things to let y'all know about towards the end. We're going to continue in the book of Proverbs. We're in Proverbs chapter 2 still. And I want to just say quick, sometimes when we have to do something, like if there's a task or there is something that we need to get done or accomplish, sometimes it can be moderately difficult to start. And one of the reasons that I've found that it is difficult to begin is because we don't always know what the end result will be. And so we have this anxiety, we have this fear that if I do it, I might not succeed or it might not turn out the way I want. And so the wise one in Proverbs, the speaker in Proverbs, seems to key in on this. Because last week we talked about how we, as God's people, ought to pursue the wisdom of God, seek it out as if it is this highly valuable commodity and necessity in our lives. And they have told us that wisdom is valuable and that we ought to seek it, but that search for wisdom is not grounded in our ability to seek it out. We don't search for wisdom because we have the ability to. Otherwise, we would just naturally do it. We also don't seek for wisdom because of wisdom's inherent value. Though wisdom is valuable, that is not the thing that inherently motivates us. Otherwise, we wouldn't need this reminder to do it. Rather, the motivation for seeking wisdom comes from who God is and what God has done. So, Proverbs chapter 2, verse 6 says, "The Lord gives wisdom, from his mouth come knowledge and understanding. He stores up sound wisdom for the upright. He is a shield to those who walk in integrity, guarding the paths of justice and watching over the way of his saints." The Lord gives wisdom. The last character in the book of Proverbs that we saw do this thing, give wisdom, impart wisdom, or try to expound wisdom to someone, is Lady Wisdom in the previous chapter, in chapter 1. And so, when God speaks, it says that when God speaks, what God speaks is wisdom. Sometimes when people speak, and myself included, the things that we say are foolishness. And sometimes people think they are giving wisdom, and they are not. They're actually giving bad advice or foolishness. And so with people, when we receive wisdom from others, it is important to have discernment, to be able to discern that wisdom. But Proverbs says that when God speaks, what comes forth from God speaking is knowledge and understanding. So the things that God gives us, the things that God puts forth are wisdom, just inherently. And so it says that God has wisdom literally saved up. It says he stores up sound wisdom for the upright. God has sound wisdom stored up and saved for the upright. And so the question then is how does God impart that wisdom to the upright? The upright, if a person is upright and upright before God, it means that they are seeking God's wisdom, and they have this fear of the Lord, and they are living in a way that seems to be driven and motivated by the wisdom of God. And so God has this wisdom saved up for this person, and as they pursue to live out the wise things that they have gleaned from interacting with their God, that wisdom is thus further applied to their life more and more. It says that God's wisdom serves as a shield to those of integrity. And then the question again is, how does God's wisdom become a shield to those who have integrity? Because if a person has integrity, it implies that they are trying to apply the wisdom of God. So if a person is acting in integrity, the idea is they have taken the wisdom of God and they are seeking to live it out. And in doing so, God's wisdom just inherently will act as a shield to them through the integrity that they show. Integrity, think of it as like a social safeguard. If a person has integrity, and then they are met with a situation where somebody says something awful or says, hey, that person did this, if they have shown time and again to be a person of integrity, that will be a shield to them, to where that person will say, that doesn't seem consistent with what I know to be true about that person. God's wisdom is a shield to those of integrity. God, through wisdom, helps guard the paths of justice. And then we ask again, how? Like, how does that happen? Because to do the wise thing means to act justly. God is a just God, cares a lot about justice and things being done justly. And so if we are pursuing the wisdom of God, as we live that out, we too are going to be motivated to act justly in the world around us, to deal justly with people. And in doing so, it guards those paths and creates ways for us to show justice to more and more people. God uses wisdom to watch over the saints, or that word saints, it literally means the holy, set apart ones, or the godly, those who have been made set apart. And so God's wisdom watches over them, because as God imparts their wisdom, the implication is if they are these saints, these set apart ones, then they have been motivated by that wisdom to live it out. Thus, in living it out, it becomes this tangible thing in their lives, and it guards them from what? And that's kind of what we're going to talk about next week. It guards them from the evil that they would otherwise take part in if they were scorning God's wisdom and not living as these set apart God's people. And so we can seek God's wisdom. We can take it to the bank that it is worth seeking God's wisdom, and we can have confidence because God has shown God's self to be faithful to impart that wisdom to us, and that in doing that, it will have a benefit for God's people. God has shown God's self faithful in those two things. And so because God has shown himself faithful, we ought to be faithful in our pursuit of the wisdom of God. I hope this challenges you to further seek God's wisdom in however you draw near to God this week. Just a couple things in a quick note. This Sunday is the beach trip. Get hyped. We're going out to the coast. We're going to enjoy some couple games, couple competitions. I got some prizes over here for folks who win. We're going to have a little cookout, a little fire pit, and hopefully do some worship and a lesson out there as well. So invite some friends. We're going out to the coast, and this is kind of our summer kickoff. We had a blast at Grog's last Friday, and yeah, we're going to kick off summer together this Sunday at the coast. We'll be leaving Eastside as close to noon or 1 o'clock. Church gets out, and then by the time we get everything loaded, that's when we'll head out. So aim to be here after second service. But yeah, love you guys. Hope you have a good day. We'll see you soon.